that I sent to you in your Google Classroom. But now you will improvise your document, hopefully after we complete chapter 2, and you will keep improving your files until the end of the semester before you did your final draft. Right? So systematic review, some of you might heard about this systematic review, and sometimes you only have literature review. So systematic review is kind of more comprehensive analysis or reviews done on the journals or on the articles published, right? So you have systematic review where this process allows you to collect evidence in identifying research opportunity in a given field of study and enable efficient evaluation to be conducted, helps to clearly understand how their research may contribute considering what has already been published and identify current state of the art. Um, so at this stage, I have seen one of your friends, and we will share that. Hopefully, Syed will allow me to share what you have uploaded in your Google Classroom at the end of this session. Right? So you have conducted several readings, like 5 papers. You have read 5 papers, but is it enough for you just to read 5 papers and you get what is called the current state of the art? So most probably, you won't get the state of the art by reading a limited number of papers. Through time, throughout this semester, you will do a systematic review where you will add on number of papers you read, and you will uh, eventually uh, identify and determine what is actually the state of the art of the interest that you would like to proceed for your research later. So it's a collection of evidence. Okay. We talk about some of you do have experience, a good experience in your field, and you might uh, know already what is the main problem or main issues in some domain. But in academic perspective, you need to prove that you need evidence. So you need to collect all the evidence via the process of systematic reviews. Right? Then only you will be able to identify what is still lacking in the field that you want to observe. Um, efficient evaluation, by having the fields that you have in your form, it is a process of evaluation. Okay, you are evaluating the literatures based on certain evaluation metrics. Okay? Currently, you only have several issues that you want to see. Among others, you have issues and challenges, and then you have application domain, and you also have techniques and methods, right? So those are the evaluation parameters or metrics that you want to see throughout your systematic reviews. Um, so by having those columns, okay, and putting information accordingly, you will at the end be able to do an efficient evaluation on your readings. Right? Then only you have a clear understanding what do you want to contribute and what else need to be contributed in the domain. Right? Because after you have several readings and several observations, then only you will be seeing what is the gap, what is still missing in the existing or current state of each of a domain that you are interested in. Right? So systematic review, it is more systematic if you have more columns, I would say. Okay. What is the relation of having more columns with these systematic reviews? Because you are evaluating more details. You are narrowing knowledge in more detailed perspective by specifying more columns in your forms that reflects the systematic review that you are conducted. Okay. So at this point of time, you may have like five things to look at, and maybe in week seven, week eight, some of you wants to further investigate certain aspects of your um, interest, and then you will add in columns to it. So the more detail that you observe, the more systematic reviews you actually conduct for the domain that you are interested in. Mm. So if you compare to the one that I mentioned about literature review, about reviews only, so the word differs in that area. If your observation is more general, um, so it will give you like a surface information of a thing, of a knowledge. But if you are having more observation, you are narrowing down the knowledge, then you are having a more systematic reviews on it. So that basically what differentiate between reviews and systematic reviews. Conducting a systematic review, there are steps actually that would help you in conducting a systematic reviews. Um, so the first one is defining the main question of your literature review. What actually you want to answer, what answer that you want to observe from things or from existing research. And then defining keywords, defining search string, defining search engine, string refinement, search string execution. Then you download and store search result. Then you define inclusion and exclusion of criteria. Then only you do the selection of papers. So you do selection of papers, you may analyze it based on title and abstract, and then you further analyze it based on introduction and conclusion, and you complete the reading and have a quality checklist. So if you look at number 8, define inclusion and exclusion of criteria. Basically, number 8 is kind of refining or narrowing down your the literatures that you need to proceed. Okay. So we are talking about, let's say you have more time and you read more papers. So out of that, a lot of papers that you have read, let's say 200 papers. So 200 papers, maybe not all is very related to you. Right? So in number 8, you are refining it. You do some kind of inclusion and exclusion of criteria to make all the selected papers is very related to you. You only select those are very related to you. Right? And then selection of papers here, again, a phase of narrowing down um, the scope and also to focus on the scope where you do the analysis, title and abstract, and then if title and abstract criteria pass your requirement, then you will proceed with introduction and conclusion part. And if title, abstract, introduction, and conclusion meets your requirement, it seems that everything stated in there are related to you, then you will do a complete reading and you will have kind of a checklist to ensure that these are the literatures that I want to focus on. And from these literatures, I will proceed my study. Right? So it is not one way process. It's like you are having a lot of things, a wider things, a wider area, and then you narrow it down and you find something is not right, and you can exclude it and you can include another criteria and do a searching again, analyze again, and then you will finally select the one that you really want to proceed with. All right. Attraction of answers related to research questions. All right. So we try to elaborate the steps that we have mentioned earlier. Step number 1, which is defining the main questions of the literature review. Right? So defining the main questions of literature review. This is where you find the problem statement. So it doesn't mean that the first phase you figure out you manage to find what should you do for the domain of study. There might be a lot of issues and challenges mentioned in many literatures, but in defining the main questions of the literature review, you need to confirm which area of issues or problem that you want to elaborate and focus on, which problem that you want to solve. So you have to define the main questions of the literature review. So you have look at the first column of your table, which is issues and challenges. So there are several issues and challenges in a domain. Is that the questions that you want to answer? Is that the problem that you want to find a solution to? It is not necessary that all issues and challenges that has been stated in many literatures you need to solve. So among all those issues and challenges, you may want to compare which one would be your interest, which one do you want to solve, which issues and challenges. And among those issues and challenges, let's say you have five, generally the literatures are saying there are five issues or challenges. And among these five, you are interested in uh, you are doing an analysis and you observe that three of the issues and challenges are the main one. And among these three, you may want to focus in one of the issues. Right? So in of that issue, what is still lacking? So that would be the question that you want to answer at the end of your observation after you conduct a systematic reviews. Right. So the process of determine what questions or what problem that you want to solve, um, there are a lot of processes at the beginning before you will be able to define the main question of the literature reviews. Right? So what you want to figure out, you have to define it first as the first step. But you can get the answer for step number one. Actually, there are several steps or processes required where you may need to read several papers or research in order to identify among those issues which issue do I want to solve or figure out more. Right? So defining the main uh, questions, and the second step is defining keywords. So you might see that some of the slides here are something that you have conducted before. It is not something new to you. But while you are doing or conducting your study or readings, sometimes we do forget to follow all these steps actually. So in here, we are trying to refresh back what are the steps needed in order to guide us to find and determine what would be the best, not the best, it would be something that is justified for you to proceed, a topic that is justified to proceed with, right? So step number two, defining keywords. As writing the first keyword, find the new words and synonyms of the word already found in papers for the area of interest, right? So synonyms here is a helpful tips where much earlier your friend did mention about having difficulty in finding in finding papers in the domain that she is interested in. So using these synonyms will allow you to get more potential papers or more potential literatures, right? Because sometimes the terms or the word used uh, might not be the one that researchers choose to use. So if you have difficulty in finding number papers, so you can use synonyms to help you, right? It might be many researchers are using different words to represent the same thing. Define the PICO. PICO is a framework suggested by John Wheely and Son in 2008. So if you look at the history of this framework, initially it was intended for clinical research, but um, it is also adaptable, it is also suitable for any domain as well. So this framework is a framework that is commonly referred and used by many researchers in finding or doing the literature, systematic literatures or reviews, right? So in PICO, they have four components, which is population, intervention, comparatives, and outcome. So these four elements is considered in PICO, are considered in PICO. So the first one is population. So which population are we interested in? How best can it be described? Are there any subgroups that need to be considered? So what is your target population? What is the scope of users? Who will benefit your research? That would be under this population. And then intervention. Which intervention, treatment, which intervention, treatment, or approach should be examined? So you may have several approaches you observe from the existing work. So among these, you may choose a treatment or an approach. So which intervention, treatment, or should be examined? So define and determine in terms of intervention. And then comparatives. Another element that is needed is in terms of comparatives. You are comparing alternatives. So are there any alternatives to the intervention being examined? If so, what are those? For example, other interventions, standard active comparatives, okay, usual care. So this is example of comparators. So if you are comparing a technique, so the comparators are the techniques that has been chosen. If you are comparing a method, you are examining or comparing another alternative. So what would be the competitor of that? So the last one is outcome. Which outcome should be considered to assess how well the intervention is working, including outcomes on both benefits and harms. Alright. So you are using, or many researchers are using PICO to better portray the scope or aims of the systematic review. How it helps you form a question that focuses on the most important issues for a patient or a population. Okay, so the word patient there comes from, like I mentioned, the history of the PICO itself, because they are meant initially for the hospital and also clinical, so it is stated patient. So for other domain, it would be the population. And then identify key terms to use in a search for evidence, select results that directly relate to the situation. I give here, state here the example of a PICO. So in adults with a cancer, so the population is adults having cancer. How does surgery is a method, surgery is kind of approach for treatment. So how does surgery, okay, this researcher is interested in figure out more about uh, surgery method compared with not undergoing surgery. So they are comparing surgery and non-surgery patients. So there are comparison there, comparators. Influence lifespan and quality of life. So the metrics or the element at the end that they want to measure is the quality of life and also the relation between lifespan and quality of life. So what is the relation of lifespan and quality of life at the end? That would be the output or outcome that they wants to measure. All right. So in this statement, there are all the four components are there: population, intervention, comparators, and also outcome. Okay. So meaning, how do the population diagnose with intervention, perceive or outcome? Right. Um, mm, I forgot what point that I want to share with you. Meaning how to okay. If you search further, there is also Pico and then bracket T time. So timeline is another component that the later researchers is adding to the Pico framework, where T is related to time. Okay. So in defining the keywords, you might want to include in the factors of time as well. Whether you want to figure out during certain time frame, whether you want to see a pattern, uh, the trends. So you may include that into uh, when you do the key when you define the keywords as well. All right. So we are now looking at step number 3, which is defining search in a string. So in practice, I'm not sure, but for me, normally I have keyword insert. I just type in because the browser now is very intelligent. Okay, you just search whatever you have in mind, and they will display related information or related to whatever you type. But using this search string will help you to avoid duplication, to avoid redundant searching or redundant collection of literatures. So you may want to use Boolean operation and or not connect this, right? I'm sure all of you are familiar with this. You can use the or operator if you don't want or wants to exclude certain words, then you use the not operator. And also you may use the bracket, the curly brackets, if you want to have the information or the website that only consists exact words in the bracket. All right. So I have give a link on this search string as well, so that you can recall and you can it will remind you on the good practice of search string. Right. Okay, step number 4. Wait. It's good for me to share with you here, in case you don't have this in your previous slides. Or also, let's settle things. So let me just open it and share it with you.
How to get the most of Grammarly free. Dissertation writing, so don't hesitate to benefit from the previous videos. The audience of the presentation is mainly.
It is not the one. All right. Let me check again. And kita proceed lah ya. It's on the search string. Okay, step number 4, which is defining search engines. Again, this is something not new to you. You have, or you normally search for Google Scholar, the last one, right? But the one that we used to do was the Google Scholar is the one at the bottom from the list here. So it's depending on the area of systematic review, right? Example of search engines in computer science area include, we have WOS, IEEE Explore, Scopus, Science Direct, Springer, ACM, Compendex, and Google Scholar. So one of the reason why we go to Google Scholar because um, it's much easier. Some of the WS requires you to subscribe or requires you to have an account for you to access or to retrieve the information. But these are the lists that are related to computer science. If you want to find a good literatures, then it starts from the one at the bottom, at the top there, WOS, IEEE Explore. All right. So the same goes to you if um if you can recall our ultimate aim for the course is to produce an article. Right? It is not impossible for you to come up with an article that can be published in any of these search engines or any of these IEEE Explore at least or WOS. It is not impossible. One of the one of the tip is instead of straight away going to Google Scholar, you may want to search for the good one from WOS. So if your references are good, then you have a higher possibility on producing a good paper as well, right? So when you look at these good papers, it may help you in producing a good paper at the end too, because you are referring to a good reference. So try to explore and try to go through to these search engines, and you can do that through the easy access in UITM. Previously, the students and even I use the easy access login, and we type easy access UITM, and then we can log in and get the files, get the articles. But recently, I find out that if you go straight away from the Google Easy Access, you will have difficulty in retrieving the information or the articles. So you try to go to the library, PITA, UITM, then try to access from there. And as well, there our library has an application as well. Are you aware of that? Did you download the application? Any of you?
Is it the digital library?
It's so how so far how did you access the articles in the our library? Or you just go to the Google Scholar?
I use the student portal to get through the access, but I didn't download any application.
So you use the easy access from the student portal.
Yes.
Mm. So I think in that approach is also possible. The thing is, I believe that they are now you need to go to our domain first, then only you can access to certain application rather than before they allows you to directly go to certain applications straight away. So if Zol do that, you can do that, right? You can access easy access from I student portal. Okay, but try to look at Pita and then try to download the application as well. So they have apps now. Uh, but I myself don't have the app in my phone yet. Uh, so I will go to Pita and try to access from Pita. Okay. So in here again, we are listing down related search engines in computer science area, and you may choose which one you want to go um, and get reference from. It's just that sometimes you may be kind of demotivated because some of the articles seems to have a very high level. Um, so you may want to adjust the materials that you want to refer to accordingly to the knowledge that you have at certain state, right? Let's say initially you just want, you are at the beginning and you have a very limited knowledge in that area. So you may want to start with the Google Scholar and more um, general article. And when you have, or you are now at the later stage, you may want to go and refer to a more technical papers where those technical papers can be retrieved from a better search engines like WOS, right? So any of these are valid, okay? And try to look at this search engine in finding the articles that is related and suitable for you. The other point is traditional paper base. This is not popular nowadays, but it depends again on the area or domain that you want to explore. There are still areas that need traditional paper base. They retrieve it from the library. They need a hard copy traditional paper base instead of the digital one. Yeah. Step number 5, string refinement. So why we need string refinement here? Because we want to improve um, the literatures that we have as of now. So we are talking about searching several articles earlier. So let's say until step number 4, you already have 100 papers. Now, out of that 100, you might want to do refinement, string refinement. Right. So to test and verify the string, define in step 3. So I did mention just now, it is not one time or one way. You may repeat or you may need to go back and do refinement in your process. So this is step number 5, which relates to that point. So to define string may need to be calibrated if no relevant results appear. So one of the calibration that you can do is the one that we mentioned about um, the synonyms, right? So you try to do that uh, kind of that method, right? Refinement can be done by title, abstract keywords, year as area, and etc. Okay, string refinement. Example on Scopus database. Again, some of you or me, all of you have this account already, Scopus account. So you can try to do string refinement like the one we have in this Scopus database. You can do based on abstract keywords, authors, first author, source, title, and so on. Right? Number 6, search string execution. Adapt search string to each of the search engine. Syntax use may be different. Keep a record of string use. Right. I mentioned about the word redundancy and also duplicate just now. So we mentioned those words when we talk about search string. So one of the reason is even though it is common for us to just type in whatever in our mind, but if we have a list of search string, right, we will be able to do our searching more efficient because we are not duplicating or we are not doing a redundant checking on the same string. Right? So keep a record of string use so that you won't repeat the same cycle. Right? And it is also good for you to have a record of string use for your tracking. Okay. Let's say you have a wide range of words, keywords. So if you have a record of string use, maybe later you can't afford to go through all the keywords, but you just want to focus on certain keywords only. So you can use the record to track back which part of the information that you have that you need to go to instead of going to each and every single of your collection. Step number 7, you have the string refinement, you have filter it, based on keywords, you have done the inclusion and exclusion of keywords, right? And you have do the reading on abstract. You are now downloading. The step number 7 is download and store the search result. Keeping the record, keeping the to save the articles, you have choose to export one document. So there are reference management tools. If you look at the data, the copies, for example, they have this option. You may select method of export, whether you want to export it to the Mendeley or you want to export it as Excel file, BibTeX, and so on. So you can choose what type of information that you want to store in your own database. Define inclusion and exclusion of criteria. Um, so this is again an elaboration of the one we mentioned earlier, inclusion. Decide which part to proceed based on questions in step 1 and related restrictions, language, surveys, and etc. When you do inclusion and exclusion, when you include a new word or new criteria and you remove certain criteria, it should be aligned with the research aims because we do not want to keep or to do everything from scratch again, repeat everything from scratch again. So at the beginning, you have defined the problem, you have identified what problem to be solved, and that problem should remain until now. We are now in the process of collecting and filtering the material that are suitable for our research aim. So if you remove or you add in new criteria, those criteria need to be within or we need to be aligned with the research aim. Because if you include something and it is different from your intention, the first intention, your research aim initially, then it seems like you have to repeat the whole thing again. All right. So should be aligned with the research aim. So that's why when you try to find the state of the art and when you do the systematic reviews in identifying what are the existing problem and which problem that you want to solve, that phase actually consume a lot of your time and effort because it is the initial process. If you change the problem, then everything will change. So more time is consumed at the beginning, the state of the art. Right? So it's okay for you to uh, go backward and refine things at the early stage of defining the research aims, the research or the problem, because it will affect the rest of the process. And consider important question in evaluating the literature. So what were the strengths, weaknesses of the research? How could the research have been done differently? And are there methods that seem more appropriate than existing one? Right. So these are the questions that you want to answer at the end of your systematic reviews or at the end of your um, analysis. Right? You may not be able to find the strength or weaknesses after you read few number of papers. You will not be able to find what was done differently if you only manage to read or you manage to um, capture certain number of literatures. You can't see that. So are there methods that seem more appropriate than existing one? Also, you can't conclude this at the very beginning of your process. Right? So that is why again the systematic review process by ensuring the information that you have in the tables of your form given to you is very important because from that you may be able to extract the answers for all these three questions at the end. Right? So you are now at the process of gaining and extracting information. If at this week 4, I'm sure you won't be able to get the answers for this yet. But along the way, please put in mind these three questions are the questions that you need to answer at the end. Right? Okay, step number 9, selection of paper, analysis by title and abstract. You may categorize as include, exclude, and doubtful. Related with step number 8, and generate a worksheet, columns of title and abstract. Alright. So selection of papers based on title and abstract, which is the first filtering process. Right. Out of 200 just now, you may not be able to have a complete reading for all, so you filter by title and abstract. And looking at the title and abstract, you can do the first phase of filtration where you do have the three category of include, exclude, and doubtful. Okay, you are now in the process of narrowing and minimizing the number of papers, and you want to have the papers that are only related to you. So include, if they have keywords that are related to your work, then you put in the category of include. If not, you exclude them. It's just that there are some literatures that may be useful to you. You believe it may be useful in certain aspect of your uh, research. So you may put it as doubtful, right? So doubtful, you still keep the copy of that, but you may want to look at it back later. So generate a worksheet, a column of title and abstract. So again, this worksheet is not fixed. It is flexible depending on what you want to observe. The more detail you want to explore, then you may have more columns in your worksheet, right? Columns of title and abstract. So in here, because it is the beginning of your process, they were suggesting to you, you should have a columns of title and abstract. But it is not common for us to put the abstract in the as a in a column, right? Because abstract normally will consist of not less than 300 words. So you don't want to have very textful worksheet. So it's enough for you to state the title, the complete or full title, author's name, and also the date or the year of publication as your first column in your worksheet. All right. So abstract you read, and then if it should be included, you keep it. If not, then you remove. So you read the abstract, but in your worksheet you will put the title, and the remaining of the columns would be depending on what you want to observe. Like the one that we want to observe currently is issues and challenges. So we need to extract information or points related to issues and challenges as our second column in the worksheet. Selection of papers, uh, go forward. You may want to narrow down the search by refining it, uh, by analyzing further in terms of introduction and conclusion. All right. So abstract looks promising, and you think that it should be included in your database or in your storage, right? And then you look further in the introduction. Does it still match with the abstract? If yes, you may want to check on the conclusion. Does it conclude something that may be valuable, meaningful to your research? Then you will keep that. But if sometimes the abstract was so beautifully written, but when you go to the introduction, it is something that is not supporting what was in the abstract. All right. So that might indicate it might not be a good paper for you to proceed with, even though the abstract is telling you that they have some similarity with your work. All right. So you may exclude papers not only because of the interest that you have in that paper, but you may exclude the paper because of the way it was written and the structure of the paper as well. Because it is common to see some paper with a beautiful and very comprehensive title, but when you go into detail, the abstract looks still okay, and then you go further into the introduction, it was stating something which is not supporting or relating to the abstract and title. So if that is the case, maybe you want to exclude it from your list because it seems that the paper itself is not a good one to refer. Selection of papers, complete reading. Okay, let's say you have finalized, okay, introduction, conclusion, title, and abstract. They are good. They are promising. So you keep that and then you will do the complete reading for those papers. All right. And defining the checklist to cut off points so that less qualified papers can be removed. So there's no fixed checklist for this quality checklist. Um, some of you or some of the researcher may have different angle that you want to tackle or they want to see further. They want to investigate further. All right. So the quality checklist would be the cut-off point for you to narrow down the number of papers that are related to you. Um, maybe there are certain quality or there are certain criteria that you can put in your quality checklist, but some of it would be um, unique to the individual or unique to the researchers as well, right? So part of it could be common, like a quality checklist of complete reading. It could be the one that we mentioned in terms of structure. Are the paper well structured? Follow the common structure that a paper should be, then that would be the criteria that you want to have in your quality checklist as well. Um, maybe quality checklist you can add in is like the publication. Is it published in a good journal or is it published in a blacklist journal? So you don't want that, then it could be included in your quality checklist. Because there are cases where the paper is very good, but if you do further checking, you do further investigation, the same paper appear in the other journals as well, right? So there may be some thing which is missing or lacking in terms of checking because publication is done differently, like people is presenting in a conference and they have a proceeding and some people send it to a journal, and that journal may have a mechanism of checking whether it appears somewhere else or not. But there are papers that I've seen appears twice in different journals. All right. So it could be they are replicating from a good one, or it might be something that is redundant. So that kind of journal you need to be check. You need to check again whether that should be considered or not. Right? Mm, all right. So defining the checklist to cut off points so that less qualified papers can be removed. So I state here, there are questions, again, this question has been asked before. How many papers should a PhD student read weekly? Alright. So how many papers should a master student read weekly? Is there any optimum range regarding number of references one should include in a paper? Right. Is there anything you wish you know before getting into the industry or any advice for members? So just a short answer that nobody has really answered your question of how many per week. I suppose one couldn't get there, but okay. Alright. So again, the answer is It depends on the students. In this case, you are talking about students and researcher. So it depends on the students and researcher. It goes back to the issues that we mentioned about systematic reviews. We mentioned about the quality of search engines, the quality of journals in that search engines. So if you want your paper to be categorized as a quality one, then you need to have a more systematic reviews being done. To have a more systematic reviews being done, you need more number of papers because there are relation in there, right? So again, another factors is in terms of the time that you have. So all those will determine how many papers that a student or a researcher need to read in a week. In this case, obviously, a researcher may be able to read more papers because the researcher, the focus is to do research. They have more allocation of time for conducting the research, including to read all the papers and literatures. When we talk about a PhD student, then it is also the same case to the researcher because a research, PhD research is considered as a researcher. But when it comes to master student coursework, for example, you may have constraint in determining what number of paper that you need to read in a week. But again, ask yourself where you want to locate yourself in. All right. So um, this would be on selection of papers and complete reading. Step number 10 is on extraction of answers related to research question. So the research question should be answered by analyzing the selected papers. Okay. Represent the synthesis of extracted data in different form. You could have or you can represent it in tables, graphs, or visualize the information. To visualize the information, right, in the forms of graph or tables. Mhm. So extraction of answers related to research question. Again, we are actually talking about the worksheet just now. Um, there is a strategy for you to have a good worksheet. So at this point, a researcher or you may have the questions or the problems in your head. What problem that you want to solve? So your worksheet just now can be constructed in a form of answering the answers or the things needed to solve the problem. Okay. So I was talking about it is a flexible worksheet. It is not fixed to certain number of columns and rows. So uh, as long as until the question has been answered, then there are possibilities of you to include more and more columns in your worksheet because the column is supposed to answer the problem that you want to solve, right? So if you want to see what are the existing work or research conducted for the past few years, so you may want to extract information of existing technique and put that as one of the column that you need in your worksheet. Then only by looking at it later at the end, you will be able to answer, okay, these are the techniques. And among these techniques, what would be the best to solve the problem that I am trying um, to solve? What are the techniques that is best to solve the problem that I'm interested in? Right? So if you want to see whether that technique is suitable for all domain, then you may want to extract information in terms of the domain that the techniques is applied to, right? So you may have one that is telling whether the technique that you figure out just now, technique A, is applicable to domain A, B, C, or it is applicable for certain domain. All right. So if you look at the domain and then you figure out, oh, it was mostly applied in domain C, but the one that I want to do is domain D, then I might want to look again whether the technique is suitable for me, whether it is applicable for my domain or not. And you might observe that that is why people is not choosing that technique because it is not suitable in the domain that you are interested in. So construct your table, construct your table in a form that each table should be able to answer the questions that you have in solving the problem that you have stated much earlier in your process, right? So that is how it works. Okay, this is just an example, a general example. Okay, the next is I would like to share the work that your friend has done, but I need to get consensus from the student because I was looking at the Google Classroom and you are supposed to submit the first progress in week 4 and only one submitted, which is Said. Said. Said ada ke?
Ada doktor.
Okay. So Said, can we look at your can I share what you have done?
Sure doktor.
All right. Okay, can everyone see this one? It was a document, it was a file, a table that has been completed by Said. So in here, I have put some comments in that. So title, author year, keywords used, issues, challenges, application domain, method used, future work and comment. So this is the default columns that I have give you earlier, right? So these are some suggestions. The first one would be in terms of keywords, we have looked at search string just now. So you can improvise these keywords by adding in whether the keywords you are using, what string that you use for this search. Right? Maybe you are using the combination of and or the curly bracket. You can specify that further. And for that, you can observe whether the number of papers um, are different. The number of paper is different when you use different search string. All right. So specify the search string used for this search and or not, etc. Not. Observe whether the number of journals appear the same or differs. So this again can help you in determine whether the keywords that you have entered or you have used is appropriate and efficient enough, or there are some important keywords that are still lacking. And you can use this keywords column to track back. We mentioned just now when we talk about search string, we mentioned about redundant and duplication, and we also mentioned about keep a record on the search string use. So this column would be very useful if you can further improvise it by stating what a search string that you use for that keywords. All right. And I do also mention here, it seems that your friend here is interested in figuring about awareness, cybersecurity awareness. If you look at his application domain, it is cybersecurity awareness, and he has specified a standard terms for each of the paper. This would be very helpful later when you want to conclude things because you are using a standard terms for that. So cybersecurity awareness and policy, right? And we go further, a cybersecurity awareness healthcare policy, and then cybersecurity awareness policy. And the other one is cybersecurity awareness policy. So agak-agaknya lah, okay, if you look at this work of your friend, what he plans to have at the end, can someone give an input or feedback on that? We don't want to ask Said, but we want to ask other people, what do you think Said plan or intend to do?
Saya nak try doktor.
Okay.
Tuan Syed dia nak buat satu polisi ataupun dia nak buat analisa on cyber hygiene.
Is that also?
Dia maybe nak create some policy on how government should buat benda tu, the policy awareness tu. Itulah kot. That's on my understanding.
I get my understanding also same with Zul. I looking at these five, you may need to find more, and I'm sure you need it is not should you have to find more, but as of now I think you are interested in at the end provide kind of policy, a frame, not framework, kind of guideline, okay, regarding this cybersecurity issues. And your the issues is actually in terms of awareness. Okay, maybe you have a thought of the aware people are still lacking, the awareness is still not there, and you want to create a policy, and hopefully that policy will increase the awareness of people in cybersecurity. Alright, nanti saya betulkan lah ya. Sama I nak ini while I'm reading it, this is what I observe. Kalau salah ataupun kalau betul pun nanti you comment ya. Okay, for that I have at here before you can come up with a policy, you can look at or specify further what are the existing awareness model or framework or elements and components of awareness or awareness perspective. Okay, where in organization the challenges appear. Okay, you can further elaborate later in terms of is there any existing awareness model. So your keywords, your next keywords could be awareness model, cybersecurity awareness model, right? And you may want to review those kind of papers, and you may want to look at the issues that they are looking at in terms of the awareness, existing awareness framework or awareness model, right? So kalau you nak buat awareness, you nak touch on awareness issue, and at the end you want to come up with kind of policy. So you need to have existing policy to refer to, and then you review that policy, what is still lacking, what is still missing. All right. To observe whether the awareness differs in each organizational structure or across an organization. So this is a suggestion on how can you improve your finding, or how can you at the end get the state of the art that is much focused in terms of the cybersecurity awareness, right? So you mentioned here one that I see is health industry. Whether you want to see other health industry by improving your keywords string, putting in the health industry together with awareness keywords, or you want to make it broader by looking in general other industry or other domain as well. For example, the first one, is it in a domain of education, or is it in a domain of health just now, or is it in SME? So maybe you want to look at different domain, whether the awareness is the same, whether all people in those different industries are aware of the cybersecurity issues. So that is kind of elaboration that you can do. So when we talk about the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth column here, application or domain, maybe cybersecurity awareness, it's not the domain, but it is the issues that you want to tackle. And then a policy here, it is not the application or domain, it is something that you want to come up with. If you relate with the framework that you use just now, ingat tak? The population, the intervention, the comparative, and also the outcome. So the outcome is the policy here, right? And the model, the existing model that you want to review could be the existing technique intervention, and then you start in comparing existing model. Let's say there are few awareness model, and then you might want to review that model. So you may elaborate on that, further elaborate on that, right? And then please add new search string, i.e. definition of cybersecurity, digital forensic, awareness. Okay, this is applicable to all because the scope that you want or you will investigate is either in the cybersecurity or digital forensic. So part of the keywords that you have identified, please include as well the keywords for cybersecurity and also digital forensic. What is defined, what is the definition of cybersecurity, and what is the definition of digital forensic? Which one is which is applicable to you? So for Syed, maybe you want to add in to start with definition of cybersecurity, and then you try for that you have remember we mentioned about systematic review just now. It is evidence. So when you want to start the rest of the things about awareness, maybe you can start with the cybersecurity itself, the definition of cybersecurity. Then you may relate that with the awareness. But for the cybersecurity itself, please try to find literature or papers that define what cybersecurity is. And if other people is doing on digital forensic, before you talk about other things, please define what digital forensic is. And to define that, you need evidence. It is not your own definition, which means that you need to read a paper that have a definition of either cybersecurity or digital forensic at the beginning, right? So by doing that, you are actually adding the number of literatures that are related to your domain or to your interest, right? And for side here, I have mentioned over there the third point, which is awareness. Okay, you are focusing on awareness. Maybe you want to first have a reference, have an evidence about what is meant by awareness actually. So because awareness could have its own definition, and which of those definition is suitable for the cybersecurity area, and then only you can elaborate further with all the 5 literatures that you have now and yet to come. Okay, you may need to go further. What else did I mention? Um, okay, number 1 is done. Number 2 is done. Number 3, please add search string. Number 4, please add whether the domain is education. I have mentioned that as well, SME and etc. Which sector or in which domain it appears more. The issue to solve is awareness issue. Okay, that was my understanding after reading your comment, your document. All right. So I mentioned here which sector or in which domain it appears more. So that is kind of question that you can ask when you construct your own table. Okay. Whether you are interested to know the awareness is the same throughout the organization or there are different awareness level. Maybe you don't want to compare between different domain like health, education, and so on. It's okay. but you want to compare one element of PICO just now, you want to compare within an organization whether the awareness is lacking in which structure of the organization, whether the management is lacking of the awareness, or the middle people, or the end users, which part of which organization structure is lacking most in terms of awareness. So at the end, when you want to come up with a policy, which is your outcome in this case, you can mention um, the awareness is lacking in the management is lacking of awareness, for example. So your policy would relates to what are needed for the management to be more aware in terms of cybersecurity issues, right? Okay, I think that would be my comment for Syed, because he is the only one submitted, okay, for this assignment. Just before this morning, I think. Okay, this morning I checked and only him submitted. All right. So do you have anything to say regarding your work?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Doctor, for all the comments. Nanti I just minta you share lah all the the comment yang you dah mark dekat dalam the paper tu. As for the apa as for the assignment itself, I actually have uh, I actually ada kumpul about 10 articles sebenarnya, but I only managed to do 5 lah, to include in this first reading progress. But as you mentioned tadi, the end goal nanti is to come up with an article, but I actually have yet to decide whether to come up with a policy, or because some of the topics that has been in my mind ni macam to assess the human factors that affecting the adoption of cyber hygiene in Malaysia, and of course among the how to solve the issue is to propose a strategy or policy like what you have said just now lah. But looking at coming up with a policy, I think it might needs more time lah, which I'm not sure whether I have the time to to propose to produce such policies or such paper lah.
Alright. So yeah, to come up with a new one, it might be, I would say, not sure yet, right? But maybe like we mentioned just now, if there is any existing model or existing policy, maybe you can just mention which do kind of analysis. Let's say one of the potential outcome is like there are several policies, but most of the policies is lacking in terms of that analysis, right? So it's not your policy that you propose. It's not a policy that you propose, but you are analyzing and giving comments on the existing one. That could be possible, right?
Okay.
Okay. For the rest, and you also Syed, looking at this, the front page or the first page of your work, anyone spot any mistake in there?
Oh, sorry, I misspell your name.
Yang mana?
Nur Azimah binti Khalid.
LID kan?
Yeah. Sorry for that.
It's okay. Alright. Okay, so for those yang tak siap lagi, so by 5 p.m. hari ni, please upload your progress for week 4. And for the remaining week, I guess you cannot reload anything, you cannot upload anything if you don't have assignment posted in the Google Classroom, right? Betul kan? I have to post assignment, then only you can upload your answer. Am I right?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay. So your task now is to upload the week 4 one, and then I will inform you when I have upload the task for uh, task 2, which is your second progress for week 7 kan? Week 7 kan? So nanti saya bagi tahu bila saya dah upload yang second one, then you can respond to that. Okay? But you know what you have to do, right? Next. Do you know? Untuk semua?
Yeah, the methodology, the methods used for the research.
Again, make sure lah macam number of papers, content yang you isi dalam progress, all those memainkan peranan lah untuk setiap progress marks ya. Alright. Okay, thank you Syed for sharing your work with others. And I think that's all from me. If you don't have any questions, then we can stop the class now.
Hi, Doctor. Can I meet you for a while after this?
You what?
Can I meet you for a while after this to ask about this assignment?
Meet me in this WebEx, is it?
Yeah, yep.
Oh, okay. Alright. Any other? Sekejap, saya panggil lah. Okay, Hairi, okay? Sekejap, saya terus ambil attendance lah. Okay, saya panggil and then you jawab lah ya. Ikut attendance saya. So today is 28. Alright. Aliza.
Ada, Doktor.
Alright. Hairul Shazana. Kecil dia kata. Muhammad Akmal.
Ada doktor.
Thank you. Faiz.
Ada doktor.
Okay. Nafan tak ada dah. Zul ada. Nur Adli.
Ada doktor, ada. Saya ada sini.
Nur Atika. Okay, mic tak function. Nur Fatihah.
Ada doktor.
Hafiza.
Ada, Doktor.
Iqbal.
Ada doktor. Ada doktor.
Syahid. Ada. Wan Alfa. Okay. Ivy.
Ada, Doctor.
Norizan.
Ya doktor.
Alright. Arif Aiman. Arif Aiman tak ada.
Dia ambil jubah doktor.
Oh dia ambil jubah. Ambil jubah untuk degree eh.
Betul.
Convocation would be November. Apa eh? Tahukah?
Tak tahu.
Okay. Nurbila. Jubah.
Dia saya.
Samir. Syamir ada ni.
Ada.
Okay. Zulfadli.
Ada doktor.
Alright. Atirah Nurman. Okay. Alright. Okay. Alright. So we stop our session today here, and I really hope that you managed to capture some information for you to proceed with. Alright. And thank you for your time, and take very good care of yourself. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih doktor.
Terima kasih, Doktor.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih doktor.
Thank you doktor.